Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the very first State of the Association presentation that we're doing today. Given the atmosphere that we're in, I thought it would be a good idea to just get us all together again and give a nice presentation. So locally, we're going to have 3 people speak today, and we're going to have our Mayor of Champaign, Deb Finan, Mark Sheldon, who is our Champaign County Recorder of Deeds, and we'll have Jimmy Clayton, who is our Governmental Affairs Director. So Deb, I have some questions for you today. Welcome first, Deb.
Thank you.
Glad you could be with us.
I'm glad to.
So our first question, due to COVID, I'm sure the sales tax revenue has taken a hit because restaurants and some other businesses have seen a decrease in revenue. How has the increased activity in home sales helped fill the gap in the city sales tax revenue?
So I'll start by saying you're correct that our sales tax and our food and beverage tax revenues are down. About $2,500,000 for each of those categories. It's close to $5 million combined for those two categories. We have not seen increased revenues from the increase in home sales. That lags behind usually at least a budget year because of how our taxing works. But what it has done is help stabilize the city funding. So, not having a crash in the housing market will mean that, that area of the city's budget will be stable. City of Champaign is a little unique because we have so many different areas that we tax from. The good thing is that if one area goes down, the other areas hopefully are okay, and that helps us provide stability across the board. In 2007, when the housing market started to decline, it was sales tax revenue and our food and bev that kind of kept us even keel for a while before even that started to drop off. So it will make a difference, but we still have a down budget.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to mention too, I was president in 2007 as well.
So we just never make you president again, Julie.
We don't know what I'm going to get every time. That's why I just thank my lucky stars this time.
Right.
During a pandemic, all the numbers are up. And
it's been really nice that and I say we because I think people know I am the vice president for downstate operations for attorney's title. So I am part of the real estate industry, and we, like all of you, are incredibly grateful that we were deemed to be an essential business that has continued to help the city, and it's continued to help our community. That housing has been going quite well since March, really.
Great. All right. Would you please give us an update on some of the new development proposals and any ongoing projects in downtown Champaign or other areas of Champaign?
Well, I think, people remain interested in what's going on with, hockey and the University of Illinois. We have not had an updated study session, but, it doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to think that may be pushed off slightly for a while. DIA has been busy dealing with the issues around football and basketball returning. The funding to do a project like hockey in part comes from the revenues and the TV revenues for those types of activities. So staff continues to meet with them. As far as I am aware, nobody's pulled the plug on the project, so that's good news. It continues to be a project that is moving forward. It's just obviously the timeline has slowed, and we are continuing to work with them on when the project will happen.
Okay. And I'm sure you've seen some adjustments with how the city government's been having to adjust to it. Do you see any changes or any permanent changes in anything that you've adjusted to? I know you're doing a lot more Zoom meetings, and that's kind of the hot thing right now. Is there anything that's come out of this that maybe will become permanent or we've learned from?
So we've done a couple of things that have become permanent already relating to liquor code. And so things like we are allowing license holders to sell a mixed drink with a meal, and as long as it is sealed appropriately, you can, pick up your margarita with your tacos, and you can take that home with you to consume. That was something that before was not allowed. And so we've been working on that change. We have the curbside pickup and drop zones, and that is something that we've been talking with staff about making permanent. It's been wildly popular downtown and on campus. And so giving the businesses a way to, more easily get what they have to sell out to consumers. And I think that's something that's probably going to stay as things move forward. I think people like the ease of being able to pull up to a spot and have Farron's bring your meal right out to you and you can take it home. So we are looking at, some permanent spaces. I also think some of the outdoor spots that we have in downtown Champaign have been, again, very popular, and allowing our businesses to expand into right-of-way. So those are the kinds of things that we'll be looking at as we move forward. Even post-COVID, there are some things that I think the community has enjoyed and that we'd like to continue to retain.
Right. I know it's going to become a little bit of a challenge in the winter, maybe with some of that outdoor seating, but it looks like some of the restaurants are making adjustments as well for that. I've seen some with the outside heaters and tents and that kind of thing. So all these, we always talk about the negative things on COVID, but maybe we can find a couple positives as well. And
I want to give the chamber a plug as well. They've been working with a local distributor and trying to do some bulk buying for those businesses so that they can buy heaters and tents as needed and try to work around what they need to do to remain viable outside for as long as possible.
Wow, that's great. Okay, we know how vital it was for real estate to be deemed essential and how important the sales tax revenue has been for municipalities. If you could share one thing that we all could do that would help Champaign's immediate future, what would that be?
So I would say buy local. We are working on, there's a national My Money Stays Local campaign, and we are working on launching with some advertising around something very similar in Champaign County. But everything from your everyday supplies to whatever it may be that you are buying, it is so incredibly tempting since stores aren't open the way that we're used to just get online and have it delivered to your house. Most of our local businesses are doing next day or same day delivery as well. And so I urge you to take steps to really search them out. And whether it's buying your coffee from Harriet's, or it's your tea from Walnut Street Tea Factory, or it's using Shipt, which is an online app to have your groceries delivered, from a local place, or, even Target, which, we think of them as a national retailer, but the sales tax we spend here stays here, and they employ people. So, it's really incredibly important because we have so many people who have jobs in our local businesses. And that's going to be the thing that is going to keep us afloat during all of this. So please take the time to just seek out those local vendors for whatever you can.
Okay, and I know when people buy and sell houses, you know, in both of those instances, I'm sure they go to Lowe's and Menards and get what they need to make, you know, make it customize their home, or just doing little things to their house to get it ready to be put on the market. So I'm glad that the real estate industry can help with that as well.
No doubt. And I would also put a plug in, depending on what you're doing, you know, Armstrong Lumber is local. You know, Lowe's and Menards have some stuff that maybe they don't have, but there are local vendors out there that do some of those same types of things. And so spending just a little bit of extra time, or as a realtor, if you're buying a gift card, you know, as you're at closings, I see lots of that happening because you all like to thank your customers. Making sure that it's local is a great way to help out.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today, Deb, and we
Thank
appreciate
you.
everything you do. And thanks again.
I wish I could see everybody's faces, but it's great to be here. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Deb. Next up, we have Mark Sheldon. And Mark's Champaign County Recorder of Deeds. And so I'm really excited to talk to Mark about some of the things that's going on in his life. I know he and I met for coffee not too long ago, and he was telling me what a crazy busy year it's been for his office there. So we know how busy our members were during the stay-at-home order, but a lot of people may not realize how busy your office was. Can you share some of the adjustments your office made to ensure that everyday operations continued?
Yeah, I'm really excited to, because we, you know, well, actually, before we even had the stay-at-home order, I had one person on my staff. She's one of the old, you know, she's a little bit older. She's got somebody in her household that's somewhat compromised. He had a couple hospital stays. So even before that, she started working from home, because we realized there was plenty of guidance out there saying, you know, if you maybe have some health issues and you can work remotely, do that. So we set her up to work remotely. That was probably about March 15th, I think a week before. But as soon as that stay at home, shelter in place, those types of things, we immediately made a commitment to having our office open and making sure that we could continue to do this work. And as Deb mentioned, it's such an important part of, you know, we have, despite the problems, there's still people that need to move into the community to start a new job, and people that need to move out of the community and start a new job somewhere else where they need to close here, so that that transaction in Arizona or Colorado or Iowa can happen. And we're just really gratified that our office, as well as everyone within the industry, was committed to keeping this all moving forward. So we never missed a single, quite frankly, we only had 1 hour essentially where we had any kind of hiccup, and that was where we were waiting for some test results for staff members to come through. But even then, we were taking recordings. So what we've done early on, we limited the number of people that came into our office. You were not able to come in for the county executive, but we took recordings at the front door of Brookins, and then we processed them. And of course, during this time, we saw people starting to ramp up their use of electronic recording. And I think that was a big lifesaver, is the fact that we shifted a couple years ago where we were able to take deeds electronically, which we weren't able to do prior to just 2 years ago. That really allowed a lot of people to shift their operations to purely electronic. So that was a big part of what happened to keep us safe. We have had, up until, and this is our final week, but we've always had somebody not in the office trying to reduce our density. So nobody within this office on a hour-to-hour basis is within 6 feet of anybody else in our daily work. So we don't have any problem with, you know, somebody would test positive here. We all, of course, would take a test. But, you know, barring that, we wouldn't have to take any time off. And so, you know, we've just made a commitment to staying at work, and these have been the busiest days. We've had at one point 7 out of the 10 busiest weeks of my time here as clerk were in May, June, and July. And I think everyone is aware within our industry. It's interesting. I'm sure your members have heard from various people, oh, you must be slow. And of course, we know that with refinancing and then of course the low interest rates makes it a good time for a lot of people to buy and sell homes. It's been very busy. So this is the busiest year for recording that we have had since 2013. And the great news from a revenue side, Deb told you a little bit of the bad news on the city financial side. The county also has those challenges, but our recording fees are up by about $120,000 from last year. So this is one area of county revenue that is actually up, and it's because of those low interest rates.
Right. I'm just curious. So by the time you get a deed to record, what's the average turnaround time that we could expect to see it, maybe if we go to look that up?
Well, if so here's what will happen is, well, first of all, people should know that we work hard to get everything turned around in one day, and we always get something turned around in one day. Right now, we have a 7-week delay on recording in Cook County. So, you know, it's interesting because I think sometimes people think, oh, everything's fine everywhere, and maybe it's fine for the people there, but here we are committed to turning everything around within a day. But actually, I pulled up the numbers because of electronic recording. So people who file electronically, 60% of those are turned around within 1 hour. So literally 1 hour. So then when it becomes available, so we have various places where people can get those documents. So if you have a subscription to Laredo, title companies, a number of realtors, a number of banks have those. If you have that online access, you will get it the next day. So anything recorded today will be available online to Chicago Title and ATG tomorrow. There's another search function within our website that it's called direct search, and there's about a 10-day delay in people being able to get that information. The reason for that is that we don't want people to be able to go in and essentially for free get things that we're having other companies pay a subscription fee for. So there's something of a delay there. But yeah, when a document comes into our office, within 24 hours, it is recorded, and usually much, much faster than that.
Great. So one of the, I think you answered my next question. What's the best way we can obtain the necessary information, resource, and online tool for access to the public record? So you gave us some good tips there on what we can do to go find that information.
Yeah, if I could just mention, one of the things that we did is we've integrated with the GIS system. So I really suggest that people get familiar with the county GIS system. If you go into there, you'll see when you click on a parcel, off to the right, there will be various information about location and parcel ID, but there is the list of recorded deeds. And you can go in there and you'll have one party, a grantor and grantee, and it'll have a deed reference. And you can use that to really gather quite a bit of information. And then a lot of people will take that deed that they find there, and then they can order just one copy of it on an online portal through what's called Tapestry. So, so I really recommend, it's interesting the things you can find just through the GIS system. And that's something that we cooperated with them. So I wrote a query that kind of pulls information from my database, and then I gave that information to them. And so we have a great relationship in terms of having our data talk to each other.
Great. I know I have used that, and it's extremely helpful. So thank you for putting that in place. Okay, so now my favorite question. I'm sure during your career, you have seen some strange or interesting recordings. Give us some examples of things that are recorded other than deeds, and from your recollection, what's the strangest or favorite thing that you've seen recorded?
Well, there are in the past, and we have less of this now, where people just. So one of the things that we used to have is the recorder's office, because they would have things like recordings of government or corporate records would come through here, and so a lot of those came through in the past, and now we no longer have to do that. That was a change the state made about 20 years ago that saved businesses in Illinois quite a bit of money. But we have some interesting corporate names come through. Some of the old timers might remember Paul Summers. He was a realtor here in town for many, many years. And so we were coming, one of the people working in the office pulled up he had filed a corporate name. Scrooge and Marley was the name of his business when he had an accounting business about 40 or 50, 60 years ago, I think it was. So that was kind of fun. We've had people, I think maybe some people remembered like the star registries. Oh, you'll buy a star and it'll be registered. And I don't know if they do that in the recording office, but there was a time for a while where people would travel above the Arctic Circle for some reason, and then some company would then register their visit above the Arctic Circle into our office. So that's kind of an odd thing. And then we have some people that do, this thing about citizenship where they're trying to claim they're sovereign citizens. That's a little bit on the strange side. But I'll tell you what I'm finding interesting in my first term here in office is just getting a little bit of insight on some of the corporate transactions, and just I find it very interesting how, of course, we make a lot of money off of things just changing hands even when nobody knows about it. So for example, 2 years ago, SuperValue sold their property, and nobody really knew about it. If I Googled it and found it in the financial pages, but they sold their land to a real estate company who then they leased it back from them. And we see a lot of that. And I find that Walgreens here at Madison Springfield just recently sold. And of course, I don't think anybody in the building probably knew that it had sold for $5 million. And some of those are kind of interesting. One that struck me just a year ago. So the Savoy 16 sold for $14 million last year. And here we are a year later, and that's about the worst $14 million investment that anybody has, made. On the flip side, one that came through a year ago and then flipped again this year, the old nursing home. So the people who bought the county nursing home, they bought also the nursing home at 4th and Springfield. I can't remember, Americana maybe at one point. So they bought that nursing home for $1.4 million. A year later, they sold it to an investment group that's building something there for $4.1 million. So they went from 1.4 million to 4.1 million just 1 year. And so there's a lot of interesting transactions where, people see opportunities and they find the capital. And I think one of the things about Champaign, it kind of demonstrates there's a lot of faith. When people are putting millions of dollars into buying real estate in the county, it just demonstrates that real estate investors and real estate investment trusts see Champaign as a great place to put money. And you don't always see it because the for sale sign doesn't go up on the Walgreens. But what's happening is people say, you know what, that's a good place to be. And so they invest in our community, and we kind of don't even really realize it, but it's coming through here, and I get to see it. And I always find that pretty interesting, because there is a lot of that happening with the mall, of course, the research park, and other places. So there's still a lot of interest in Champaign County business.
Right. And I do remember Paul Summers.
Yes.
When he was a realtor and did some of his things in downtown Champaign, is where I know he was his favorite favorite hotspot. And back to the movie theater, talk about timing, location, timing, yeah, for that sale, depending on which side of the table you were on,
Right.
had quite a consequence to it. So,
Well, let's hope that they find the right buyer. I mean, I think everyone wants that to be, move quickly and reopen again. Of course, the IMAX is a pretty unique thing around here. I don't think there's one very close, so I think it's a great property. But and hopefully that's gonna move the right direction. But yeah, a lot of interest in Champaign County real estate, even some that you might not, things that are moving that you don't even realize.
right. Okay, we appreciate your time, Mark, and we appreciate everything you do for us. And
Well, let me tell you, I think we can all agree that between the title companies and the banks and the attorneys and the realtors, everybody has just banded together to get through this crazy year. And I just don't think there's been a hiccup along the way. I mean, it's kind of been seamless. It's been challenged, but if you were a property owner, buying or selling, everyone served you well and got done the job that needed to get done. It's been really gratifying to be part of it.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. All right, next up, we have our hero, Jimmy Clayton. Jimmy, are you on? There you are. So Jimmy is our governmental affairs director with Illinois Realtors. He is in Springfield, so he can keep a very close finger on the pulse of what the legislators are doing there and jump on any legislation that we either need to oppose or support or remain neutral on. That team this year was extremely helpful in making sure that we were deemed essential. And so, Jimmy, can you just go ahead and explain with the executive order how that whole thing worked, what your team did, what the IR team did to make sure that we were deemed essential?
Right. Thank you, Julie. It was early on in the executive order that our current Deputy CEO, Jeff Baker, was meeting with not only IDFPR, but the governor's legal counsel as well, assuring that we would be deemed essential. So it started at the very top with that, and then being able to work fluidly with the shortened session and attack the legislative agenda like we did was the capability of our RPAC, and that was our State House team of Greg St. Aubin and Julie Sullivan, our legislative attorney, Matt Rinchler. They were able to work out a lot of ideas that were thrown out in that shortened session, but the executive order deeming us essential and getting that availability to operate business as is was with a direct communication with the governor's office and our deputy CEO, Jeff Baker.
Great. I know there are probably a lot of long hours put into that. And how much warning did you have? I mean, how long did that take you to convince them to make sure we were essential, or from
they were working on it from day one, middle of March, when we knew we were going to go into a stay-at-home order. And we, the Illinois Realtors, we operated basically as is and just kind of adjusted to being remotely, which was a little bit different. But when the first order came out of the business that were allowed to continue on was within the first week, and we were on that list. So I'm sure, I don't know the exact date or anything, but I'm sure the moment that stay-at-home order was addressed, our team was on it with the governor.
Well, we were sure glad to see that we were included in that list. So thank you.
Yes.
I know some of our neighboring states weren't. So
No.
and thank you for your assistance on doing that. So give us some updates on what's going on, maybe local, state, and national.
Okay. Well, the statewide, right now, we're kind of preparing to obviously get through an election period. But of course, we're going to have veto session. We're pretty sure it's going to occur here in Springfield. I think it might be something similar to that shortened session. That's my personal opinion, but I do think we'll have a veto session, even though technically there's not anything for the governor to veto. So, because nothing was really passed during the short session. But I think it will be a time to address more of the civil or social changes that need to be made. But at the same time, we can, expect there'll be housing initiatives out there, and whether they're the same ideas as rent control or what we see in the past, we'll have to adjust accordingly once we see kind of how it's going to operate. But something that we are going to do a little differently this year that we announced during the fall business meetings is a different approach as far as affordable housing and regulations on diversity of the real estate industry as a whole. Instead of being more of the reactive role that we have been in the past to a lot of these issues, with affordable housing being and diversity being such a huge issue at the forefront, and with the relationships we have over there, we are going to take more of a proactive role and establish our own and draft our own legislation dealing with affordable housing or incentives to spur more development in that area. Couple of the ideas that we were looking at were the prohibitions on accessory dwelling units, or a new law to increase transfer tax proceeds going to more of the housing trust fund. I believe a lot of the transfer tax now goes to parks and districts and parks, I believe. So it's more of a proactive role. It's a way for us to be drafting legislation. We feel if we're going to be the leaders in defending a lot of the regulations or ideas that are thrown out there, let's give something that everyone can agree upon that creates the same outcome, but doesn't go down the same route. So statewide, it is going to be a little bit different, but it's exciting that we'll be drafting new housing law and legislation, and hopefully with the right kind of housing development and possibly property tax abatement incentives for new construction or rehabbing a current affordable housing unit, that we can have something that has a really good outcome and helps a dire need that we have in our state right now, and we would be the ones drafting it.
Great. And just a little bit of background on Jimmy. If one of the things that he does, if there's a local issue in any of our municipalities, Champaign, Urbana, Rantoul, I know you've been to Rantoul, he keeps, I'm sure, a daily update on those things. And if something comes up that we are going to be opposing, Jimmy shows up in person, gives a presentation, and does an awesome job. So Jimmy, you do a lot of traveling, and we are not the only association that Jimmy helps. So he also does a fantastic job helping us reach our RPAC goals. That's huge. He just guides us in the right direction. So thank you very much for that. Jimmy,
thank you, very kind.
Yeah, Jimmy actually, he did participate also when we had the trivia night.
I did. I had two great partners. I had a loaded team though, so I didn't provide much input.
You were on the winning team, so congratulations.
Well, my two teammates were the winning team. I kind of just listened.
Right.
But
So
no, and locally, I love representing the Champaign area. There's definitely some areas I have to pay closer attention to. Fortunately, you guys have such a great mayor that, and it's very easy to work with, that, there's not been a whole lot of trouble in Champaign. So.
Mm-hmm. Right. I also want to take the opportunity, since we're talking about RPAC, to thank everybody who invests in RPAC, no matter what the amount, and to our major investors. Also, these are what our dollars go to. When you do that, you donate to that cause. So
yeah, and without sorry to interject, without RPAC, honestly, being deemed essential, having the availability to draft housing, what we were able to stop during that shortened session as far as the housing bills that were put out there, without RPAC, none of that is possible. RPAC is the reason why this state was deemed essential while others weren't. It's our members and our members' engagement. So just to echo what Julie's saying. I want to thank all the major investors and thank everybody that participated and contributed to RPAC. It really showed its power this year.
Right, and I know all of the IR, governmental affairs, and all the everybody in that office is just so highly respected, not only locally but also when we go to the Capitol for Capitol Conference. And we go and we have, I think, what it was up, we had 900 last time. Was it that high?
I think
900?
something around there, yeah.
So when you walk in, when 800 or 900 realtors walk into the Capitol, it gets their attention. And they definitely want to talk to us. So thanks for putting that together. This year we had to do a virtual one, which was good. You know, we were able to still meet with them but do it via Zoom. So appreciate your help on that. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just thank you for Champaign area during these difficult times and different times. We've all adjusted and being willing and flexible to the whole CCAR staff and the membership being flexible to change things how we normally do. And it really shows the engagement. Like I always say, you'll hardly ever find a local association that's as engaged as Champaign County's members are. So I just big thank you to the CCAR staff and all the members for a great year. Even though a different year, a great year.
Yeah, and maybe you can get an extra year of wear on your tires before you have to replace them, since you've been working. You know, we've been able to do so much from Zoom, so so that's great.
I just want to unmute and thank Jimmy. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Mayor.
Thanks for being on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on then. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. So next on the agenda, I am going to go ahead and share the screen, and I am going to go over some of our reports that we have. We weren't able to get together for our annual meeting this year. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that via our Zoom call here. Okay, so our annual membership report. Last year on September 18th of 2019, we had 513 members. Total number of new realtors joining CCAR from October 1st, 2019 to September 22nd, 2020, we had 36. Total number of drops in that same time period is 53. So our total membership of CCAR as of September 22nd, 2020 is 500. Nice even number. And our affiliates, we are at 108. Realtor membership. I put this slide in here to show exactly how our membership since, well, over the last 20 years, I guess, how we started at 405 in the year 2000. 2020, we're at 500. We topped out again the year that I was president, 571. But then you can see it dropped off way from then, and I think we all can probably attribute part of that to the housing market crash that we had. But steadily, we've rebuilt that membership up to 500. Our budget. So our association revenue depends largely on our membership count. So every year the exec committee and the finance committee sit down and we go over the numbers and we try to anticipate what our numbers are going to be if we could project what our membership totals are going to be. So in 2020 and 2021 projections, we stayed at 500, which is what we projected the year before. Then we dropped down our non-member salespersons just by 5. And again, these are projections. And then we also backed down on the affiliate membership to 110 based on the previous year. Year over year financial snapshot. And this is going to be a little bit different. There's a couple of things that came up this year, as you can imagine, that made our numbers look a little differently, and I'm going to explain that to you. So income year to date, August 31st of 2020, $810,456.21, which showed a difference from 2019 of $123,016. Expenses, we are down on that as well, $835,676. And so our expenses have decreased year over year, $67,235. A couple of things I want to mention here. The income obviously is down. A couple of reasons for that. The board decided to do 2 months of forgiveness on our MLS and participation fees. So that was a huge help to our membership during a couple of the months we did. I believe that was May and June. So that income was $65,000. We also had the 53 realtor drops, has increased our income a little bit because of the dues and the initiation fees. Also, we haven't been able to have any of our in-person CE classes, which was also a revenue resource for us. Included in the income, however, was we did apply for a PPP grant, and we did get that, and we used that to supplement the forgiveness of fees in May and June. Decline in expenses, that's for obvious reasons. We weren't in the building as much. We didn't have as many in-person events such as our luncheons and those types of things, so that decreased the expense. So overall, our net income and loss difference, if you look down in the lower right-hand corner, is $35,784.46. Now some really good news. So again, I'm still totally in shock that the housing market has done as well as it has during a pandemic. So I wanted to prepare a couple of slides for you to show you what those numbers are. So if we start back in September of 2019, our pending sales had a fairly strong month at 184. And as usual, then we backed down on those numbers through December when the market slows down. We were seeing a nice rebound in January. February, we were off to a great start. And then March came, and we all know what happened on March 20th when the executive order was announced. And still in March, for our pending sales, we had 262. So we had at least 3 good weeks in there. And then we were down just a small amount in April to 253. And then, as you can see, in May and June, we pretty much exploded. June was 312. And then July, we've come down a little bit in August as well. But again, those are what we typically see during this time of year. Our total home sales volume, again, we were off to a great start in January, February, March, and April. And keep in mind that these home sales take place 30 to 60 days after they go pending. So if you remember the last chart we looked at, you can look ahead a little bit. And we had a high number of pendings in April and May, and obviously those closed in June and July. 379 was our volume, and that's just phenomenal, again, during the middle of a pandemic. Another interesting statistic that we have is the average home sale price. So if we go back to September of 2019, we were at $169,488, and we got up as high as $201,000, just barely over that in June. Who would have ever guessed, again, that we'd make that much progress, but we sure did. And then August, we're backing down a little bit to 190,953. And then we have the median price, home sales price as well. That just gives us a little bit different view on that. September was 159,000, and then we are up almost 20,000 to August of this year. And I'm sure it was a huge help, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. We started in September of 2019 at 3.61%, and we're down to 2.93% in August of this year. And the source from that is Freddie Mac. So in closing, it's been my pleasure to be your 2020 president. We've all had to make adjustments and be flexible this year, and it's definitely been a challenge. Let me stop sharing my screen here. Thank you to the membership for being flexible, first of all, and for understanding as we've had to make changes along the way. One of those changes that we had to make, we had to, instead of doing an in-person installation and award ceremony, we combined that into a very small ceremony. We did record that. We're putting together a recording of different things throughout the year. And so when that is distributed, you'll be given a link to that so you can watch it and make sure that you do that. There's some really nice things that are going to be in that, so make sure you do watch that. And just a few highlights from this year, even though, again, we had the stay-at-home order, we still accomplished a lot as an association, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of those things. This summer, we did an RPAC candy bar Hearts for Health fundraiser for RPAC. We raised $1,100, and we were able to buy lots of candy bars. Jamie, Faye, and I delivered those to the testing site at Carl on Mattis. They were extremely appreciative, and everybody loves chocolate, so we were able to do that for them to show our appreciation for everything, all their hard work. We also did the President's Initiative, which was Habitat for Humanity, and we, right before we went in, before COVID hit, we had our Valentine's Day auction, and we were able to raise $2,480 for that. We also helped with their gift wrapping back in December at the mall, which is their largest fundraiser of the year. So we covered 2 full days for them of doing that, and people were very generous with their donations. So they were able to raise $11,000 for their gift wrap, what they did at the mall. So that's their largest fundraiser of the year. Also extremely proud to say that we earned the RPAC Triple Crown Award again for the 3rd straight year in a row. And we earned that award by meeting our participation goals, our fundraising goals, and our major investor goals. So congratulations to the association on that. And we're going to be having a couple of more fundraisers for that. I know those of you that made pledges, you have until approximately the middle of December to make sure that you pay that pledge. But stay tuned, because I know Jamie, as the Governmental Affairs Chair, is planning some exciting events where you can fulfill that pledge. We also had, we contributed bundles. We did a CCAR Bundles of Warmth fundraiser where we were able to purchase 175 blankets, and we delivered those to 7 different shelters. We contributed $500 to See You at Home Hope Gives initiative. We also gave $250 to One Winter Night for See You at Home. We also, for the first time as an association, were able to vote electronically. That was a huge success. We had a lot of people vote online, and we had a lot of different offices vote. So that was definitely a success and something we'll be carrying forward in the future. We also held our July and September orientations and some CE classes via Zoom. So that was a slight challenge, but we were able to get that all worked out. And thanks to staff for getting that all figured out and making it run so smoothly. And stay tuned. There is a sales contract working group that's in the process of making some revisions to our current contract. It's in final review with the local attorneys, and then that will come back to that committee for review, but stay tuned for that. We also did an auto lockbox co-op agreement with Bloomington Normal Association of Realtors, which allowed us to be able to access each other's key boxes. So that was a huge step forward. And we also signed a new 4-year agreement with Supra that gave us some additional perks in that program. We advanced to the pro version of that, and we were able to decrease the monthly fee for that to our membership. So as you can see, we've accomplished quite a bit as we were all trying to adjust to a new way of life that we've never had to experience before. We've remained a team and a strong membership, and to that I'm forever grateful. So thank you for being a part of this today, and look forward to talking to you soon. Bye.